the big thing as I got older was how body image and beauty was then tied to sexuality. My mother, not only like did she have her body image issues, but she also had some of this Madonna whore type mentality where for her, women were supposed to look good and look sexual and be desired, but be withholding. And that wasn't going to work for me because I wasn't someone who was withholding. Like, I had my first kiss when I was like 12 and I lost virginity at 15, and like, and some of that too was I didn't get a lot of, as much as I wasn't getting good body education, I also wasn't getting good sexual education. You know, I didn't know about anything to do with sex, including periods, until school because my mother refused to have those conversations with me. So I had no idea what a period was until a high school teacher had to explain it to me. Because I did not know sexuality in like a healthy way that I should, and I was trying to like seek out my own answers, I definitely, the summer between 6th and 7th grade, racked up $350 worth of sex phone call bills. Telling stories of like I'm sitting on the washing machine and the vibrations are so nice, like that got me grounded for 6 months, and that I think that was also sort of like this catalyst of like my stepdad being to my mom like, you need to maybe like reel this in. So I'm 26, almost 27. The internet was not a big part of my childhood, which is obviously can't be said for a lot of kids now. And so I'm actually very thankful that I didn't have exposure to internet in my private home until middle school, going into high school, because once we did have internet in my house in high school, I definitely like went into chat rooms and stuff and did some like risky behavior there. But it was, I think, because it was a little bit later that it prevented me from making some really bad choices. But I'm sad for those kids who have a similar upbringing about their bodies and then about their sexuality and how the two intertwine and how beauty starts to define your sexuality and wanting to feel loved and desired, and you have the internet at your fingertips. And that to me is a scary place. So I'm very thankful to have not had the internet, and even though I did a few things, which my stepfather kind of stepped in on, it could have been a very different existence for me. Even though the tendency, like the desire to, so I did lose my virginity in high school, and I still was a very sexual person in the sense of like, you know, I masturbated a lot, watched a lot of porn, and like I didn't really act upon a lot of it because I was just so afraid of getting my ass kicked. That once, it essentially was like once I got out of college, it was like, free reign, go fuck everything. Sometimes those encounters were okay and they were respectful, and sometimes they weren't. And it was those points where they weren't respectful, especially because I feel like at the beginning of freshman year they started out kind of respectful and then they just progressively got worse and worse. Is when you start to like think to yourself, what am I doing? Am I actually proving anything? Does this fulfill me in any way? Do I actually feel more attractive? I would say 99% of my partners have been very good looking. You know, by society standards, been very good looking. I'll show you some pictures, girl. Because confidence, I think, translates for a lot of guys, especially in like the sexual realm, of like, you know what you like, you know...
It's uncomplicated.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun. And to go even deeper into the nuances, though, of just, like, the body. And again, I've tried to now come from a place of, like, body positivity, no matter what your body looks like. Because I know very slender women who would love to gain weight and they can't. And that's, you know, that's great for them that they are who they are. I don't, as much as I don't want to see fat shaming in the world, I also don't want to see...
on the other side.
On the other side
of
it.
Right.
But, that said, in talking to men, because I've now become also very open with talking to men about, like, how they feel about women's bodies, there is something very sexual about curves and stuff, and this is going to be somewhat graphic, but I mean, a guy, you know, pounding you out from behind and seeing your ass shake and move and being able to reach under and grab your breasts. I mean, it's like, they're very tactile creatures and visual, and they're essentially seeing what they're doing to you when your body moves in certain ways. And so even these guys who profess to only want these really slender women oftentimes don't. So here we go across all these lines, right? I'm feeling like ugly most of my life into very positive for most part about me now. The next part I'm trying to deal with is being a woman in her 20s, being around my peers. So not so much older guys, because they've gotten past that. Being around my peers and waiting it out on them to essentially realize that they too are acting in a way that society tells them that they should. And I refuse to be anybody's secret lover. I refuse. Like, I know you may not like have a big girl fetish. I would say most men don't, but you are also denying the fact that you find me attractive because I happen to be bigger than what you think you should be dating. And I'm not going to play into that. And I've cut some guys off with that shit. And this is why women mature faster than men. They'll get there, but it's fucking frustrating. Because here I got all this ass up until like age, 24, 25, and now it's been somewhat of a drop-off because I refuse to play into a lot of the game. I was just having this conversation with two of my housemates over the weekend, and one of them was downright shocked that sometimes I don't feel attractive. I mean, she was like, I just don't understand. I see you as this body-positive person. It's hard for me to imagine that you sometimes don't like yourself. Which I think is great. I'm so glad I project an image that I do. I struggle with those moments, particularly when I'm alone. And again, going back to that relationship with food, I turn to food as a comfort when I'm stressed, when I'm lonely, or when I feel rejected. And so the greatest moments of struggle tend to be binge eating privately. And that's even now. Being self-aware, learning to recognize them. I still indulge them occasionally, but again, who doesn't? Like, I don't begrudge myself having what I think are very normal feelings. And it's also now, instead of, relishing in like having validating sex, I now try to relish in the fact of just getting like male attention. You know what I mean? Like having that control of, I know you desire me and I have the power to say yes or no to you, and enjoying that feeling more than laying down with someone. There's a lot of breaking down between women, and like, I would say sometimes the worst proponents of fat shaming tends to be women on women, but we're also the same ones who will talk about it. Whereas men don't have the education and perspective to understand some of where these body issues and women's issues come from, especially on a greater societal level. And I would love for women to be more, if they are straight women, I guess, to be more open with their male partners about their bodies and like how they're feeling. I do hope people would want to talk about these issues more with each other on a public level. I think that's so important, especially talking about, because I think this is so much more natural for women to talk to women about body image issues. And I would love to see a greater push towards women talking to men. Like, that has really become a very important point with me in talking to partners and stuff. Like, so that way they get an equal amount of education.